Please welcome the writer-director of the Rover, David Michôd, and the stars of the Rover, Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson. Guys. David, let's start with you, because I believe this movie began for you back in 2007, before Animal Kingdom even came about. Can you talk about how this came about for you?
I was in LA with Joel Edgerton, who a good friend of mine who I've worked with a number of times, and we were just throwing around ideas for a movie that at the time we thought his brother Nash might direct. I started writing it and just started writing a movie for me. And I went and made Animal Kingdom, and everything went nuts. And in the mayhem after Animal Kingdom, I had a look at all different things I could possibly do, but I just always knew somehow that I wanted the Rover to be the one.
So you had lots of different scripts at different stages? Or was this one that was ready to go and you thought...
No, this one wasn't ready to go. I had only done one draft of it.
Oh, really?
Once I'd made that decision, then I jumped in and did another couple of drafts and made it the thing that it is now.
So how would you describe the Rover? I mean, we've just seen the trailer, but for people who haven't seen the trailer, how would you describe the film? Is it something that can be described in a pithy couple of sentences?
I used to describe it as a kind of a dark and dirty and violent near future western, and then I stopped calling it that. I don't know why. But
that's good.
That's kind of what it is.
It works. And Guy, let's bring you in this one. Who do you play in the Rover? Can you talk about your character exactly? Who is he?
Oh well, that's a tough question.
It is a tough question. I like to start with the tough ones first.
Yeah,
build them up.
It was a tough journey for me to find who he was, actually, to be honest. And David and I had a lot of discussions in the beginning. And obviously, when you see the film, you realise that there's a lot of this man that is sort of stripped away. He's lost and sort of given up on his morality, I guess, and his sense of humanity, etc. So, by the time the film starts, you find a guy who's sort of a ghost of himself in a way, and really become sort of reverted back to being a sort of an animal rather than a person almost, So it's a tough, complex kind of guy. Yeah.
At a base level, it's essentially about a man who wants to retrieve his stolen car.
Look, to be honest, on an even more base level, it's much more interesting than that. It's and we can't really give away what it is that he's, but the car is connected because of what's in it, So, it's about a man who really has one last. One last thing to do, really, probably before ending his own life, really, and honouring that,
Okay, and Robert, you play Ray in this. Who is Ray?
Ray is one of a gang of kind of quite lame criminals, sort of a misfit band of criminals out in the middle of nowhere in Australia, and me and Ray and his brother part of this little gang, and I've sort of been left for dead, and my brother's stolen Eric's car, and Eric sort of kidnaps me to find the car again.
Okay, so you're playing American in this one. I believe you had to audition with the accent in place already. Is that true?
Yeah, whatever accent I was doing, I'm not entirely sure what it was, but so I was just thinking yesterday when we were rehearsing, I didn't do it. I refused to do my accent, so when we were rehearsing and I was doing an English accent. It's really weird.
Yeah, I can't remember now, really.
Yeah, I was too scared to do it.
Oh, really? So the minute the cameras rolled, you were just like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it on the night, I'm fine.
Yeah, on the day.
Also, we have a number of clips from the film. First up is a clip in which Eric, having had his car just stolen from him, tries to retrieve it. Let's take a look. Thank you. And that's just the beginning. So, Guy, I mean, Eric seems fairly single-minded in his pursuit. Have you ever played a character like him? And where did that single-mindedness come from for you as an actor? How did you tap into that?
No, I don't think I've played a character like this before, and hopefully not. I always try to do different things, I guess, and really just tapping into what his objective is in the script, you know. So, and once I understood who he was and what he was about and what was all he had left in his life, then that single-mindedness really was sort of very clear, you know.
Was he a difficult character on set? Were you able to access him fairly easily, or were you slightly difficult to be around during filming?
I'm always difficult to be around. No, I think I managed to slip in and out, didn't I? Or did I?
You're asking me if you're a nice guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, that was no. It's one. It was fortunately. I think we've talked about this. You know, I think Guy, you learned early on in your career that if you do that thing that actors sometimes do, where you got to hang on to your character all 24/7, that you just expend a lot of energy that doesn't end up on the screen, and you have to find ways of preparing and then shedding the character once, you know, the day is finished, and then just being a nice guy, don't be
and then tapping back into it again. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And David, I believe you wrote the part of Eric with Guy in mind. Can you talk about that, and then also what you were looking for in Ray, and how you happened upon Mr. Pattinson here?
I had. Well, I mean, just for starters, I like to, when I'm writing, I like, where possible, to have an actor in my head. For some reason, it makes the process easier. I can smell and see and feel the character. And Guy is incredibly good at playing a really just powerful stillness that I knew this character needed, but I also knew that this character needed to have very clear moments of emotional vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And Guy's the master at it. So I found it very useful for me to just have that in my head. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have anyone in my head when I was writing Rob's character.
Yeah.
I just, no one came in. When I had already met Rob, I just randomly in a sort of, you know, Hollywood meeting, and I didn't really know anything about him, but I just like meeting actors. Mm-hmm. And I immediately liked him. I just found his his just qualities beguiling, and he was anyway, I just liked him. He's smart and funny and fun.
It's not true at all. It's so not funny.
But even then, I didn't actually know that I was going to. I didn't know that I was going to make the Rover when we had that first meeting.
Okay.
You know, actually, I've never said this before, because when I think about it, meeting Rob may have been one of the things that made me go, I think the Rover should be the next thing, because I've got a feeling about him.
Yeah, right.
No.
I was meeting something totally different.
What was that?
I was meeting something totally different. Okay, I'm not gonna. I'll take it.
Yeah, take that one. I didn't know. For all I knew, you could have turned up and auditioned and just been shit. And I'm like, okay, well, who else is out there? But I just had a feeling. I weirdly think that may have been sort of true. I just remember walking away from that meeting going, wow, if I made the Rover, I would love to see what that guy can do. And then I started testing for it, and Rob came in and auditioned, and sure enough, my incredible instincts were spot on. And I just knew straight away. I felt like it was. I remember Rob left, and I remember the casting director who was there with me turning to each other and going, there he is.
Amazing.
You know?
How was his accent first time around?
It's great.
Yeah.
I don't know where it was from, but
Okay, we have a second clip now, which is at this point in the movie, Eric and Ray have come together. Ray's just had surgery on a bullet wound, and they've taken refuge at a doctor's. Let's take a look. Who knows what happens next? So in terms of the central relationship between Eric and Ray, and between Rob and Guy, as a director, did you want to keep them apart because it's an antagonistic, twisted relationship? It goes through lots of twists and turns and developments. Initially, did you keep them separate on set?
No, I mean they're professionals. You know, I don't. You know, and maybe when you're working with little kids or something, you do that stuff. But you know, I don't like those games that directors sometimes play with actors to try and if they're professionals and they're good at what they do and they're experienced, they can. You know, I mean, the film in a way is about two guys who meet and then go on a journey together, which is basically what these guys did. And so I didn't really have to.
Okay.
Try and play mind games with them or anything.
So, Guy, you didn't just go and stare at Rob for ages on the first day. How was that working relationship?
Well, funnily enough, I did stare at Rob a bit on the first day because I don't think I worked on the first day, and I came to set, and Rob was doing the scene where he has gotten out of the truck, and you sit by the tree, and you've got the dress or whatever it is there with you, the cloth, And so I was watching him, what he was doing on the monitor. It was great, actually, because it was the first... I mean, we'd obviously rehearsed together, but seeing what somebody actually does on set and what's caught on camera really enabled me to see how vulnerable he was playing the character. And really, it just crystallised, I guess, what the dynamic was going to be, because I knew what I wanted to do with Rob as far as the how Eric sort of behaves with him.
Yeah.
So it was great to actually, have that moment. And I said to David, going, wow, it's really good, isn't he? So,
it's like you were expecting something else.
Yeah, shit, he's really good. I better lift my game,
Because you hadn't, and you've admitted this, you hadn't seen any of the Twilight movies. Is this how true is this?
That is true. Sorry, ladies. I'd seen Rob in Water for Elephants.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a lovely film, and I thought Rob did a wonderful job and looked like a movie star. And so I'd seen that, and well, I really was impressed. And when David talked about Rob, it just seemed like a great idea to me. So yeah, fantastic.
And Rob, even though I guess you guys weren't kept apart on set and you didn't stare at each other, I guess there is a boundary, a trust boundary that actors have to establish, because you guys go through hell together in this movie, and Guy abuses you quite a bit as well. Did you talk about that beforehand in terms of how comfortable you felt with each other and how far you could go?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just getting beaten up and stuff, I mean, I would like to do anything which affords me to be able to not act at all. And so, our first scene, and guys throwing me around with the car, I mean, it's literally like, I'm sort of letting my head actually almost knock myself out. But I mean, it just makes it easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the trust is just built because of people's faith in the story, and wanting to make the film good. And he's not, Guy's not the type of actor who's just doing something for his own ego, or just trying to look cool or something. It's his heart, if your heart's in the right place, you're not gonna. You trust them.
Guy, I've read that the voice is the first thing that you find usually when it comes to a character. Is that true?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like it's not until I find the voice that I can then sort of move forward with other things. For some reason, I just think people's voices say so much about them, And this was interesting. I'm not sure if it was the voice that I found first, or if it was more about the physicality, kind of the way he kind of moved, And as I say, I sort of left it right to the last minute before I really managed to realise who Eric was. So it was a little nerve-wracking there in that couple of days before we started shooting. But the great thing about David's writing in relation to the voice is that it's, there's a really unusual sort of cadence and, rhythm to it. And I remember even when we did Animal Kingdom, that big scene that I have... and there was, the very particular ways sometimes that David would want me to say something, that would bring a whole other sort of emphasis or energy to the scene that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of, So it's great working with someone like David, who also is very particular about how somebody sounds, and the rhythm that they use. So I really enjoy, that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy working with David.
Absolutely. And Rob, where do you start? Do you start with the voice? Do you start with the physicality? The look of the character? What,
The hair. It's all about the hair.
the
isn't
hair. It's all the hair.
I think with this one, the voice, I guess.
Yeah.
There was something. There were all these weird little vocal patterns, which I just liked reading the script when I first read it, and then sort of little gimmicks and things when I basically came up with a subtext to justify how I wanted to just do little twerks and twerks.
There is no twerking in this
Robert's
movie.
twerking all the time on set, which is really embarrassing out in the desert. I
You
have to
cut all
say.
my twerks out.
Yeah, they all got cut out of the movie.
There's also a scene where a guy has a sort of stripping scene, which was also cut out.
Yeah, that was also cut
my
out.
favourite scene in the movie.
Then there's our dance scene, that was cut out as well.
I'm being serious though.
Such a different film. That was your first draft, David, wasn't it? With all the
I want to
twerking?
see that version of the movie, man.
And before we have the last clip, David, I just want to talk about the actual setup for the film, because this takes place after something you've called in the movie the collapse. Can you talk about what that is for you?
I wanted to set a movie, you know, when I was writing, excuse me, I'm talking here.
Always a director.
Yeah. When I was redrafting the script, it was not long after the financial crisis of 2008 or whatever. I remember just being gobsmacked at how certain kind of monstrous people in the financial industries had been allowed to almost destroy the middle classes of the Western world, and they were just getting away with it, you know. But meanwhile, you know, we are actively destroying the very things that sustain us, you know, and yet it would seem that we really don't have any willingness to do anything about climate change, for instance. You know, I found myself filled with a certain kind of despair and a kind of anger that I was just rolling into the script and rolling into Guy's character, and this became the future of the movie. You know, a kind of a collapse of of Western economies and the things that follow as a consequence of that, but had reduced Australia to a kind of resource-rich third world country. I wanted this to be the near future of the movie, because I find, you know, in quote unquote post-apocalyptic movies, you know, you sit the events of the movie on the other side of some kind of massive single event cataclysm like an asteroid or a nuclear holocaust or something, and it just removes you from. I wanted everything that was wrong with the world in the movie to be directly connected to everything that's wrong with the world today.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely, and you know, it's a terrifying movie on many levels. Not least because it seems so real. It seems like it could literally happen tomorrow or in the next few years. When reading the script, Guy and Rob, did you begin to put yourselves into that, as project yourselves into the script? What you would do in a situation like that? You know, Eric and Ray are clearly survivors, but what about Guy and Rob? Would you last 5 minutes in a world like this, or would you be gone?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say, really. I mean, you certainly imagine. You think about what life would be like if it did turn like that for us. I mean, it's like that for some people now already in certain parts of the world, and you know, I think people are extraordinary as far as what levels they'll go to survive, and you know, so I kind of feel like I don't know how I would handle it or cope, because I feel like I would change as a person on some level. But I certainly thought about it, yeah, and thought about how, you know, affecting and strange it would be.
Yeah, and Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really put it more. I couldn't put I don't know more eloquently than that.
I think you'd be alright.
I used to
I think
wonder.
you'd be fine.
I used to wonder which of these two would survive if they had left their own devices. And originally, I obviously thought, well, it would be Guy because he's strong and he's capable and blah blah blah. And then I worked out that it's probably Rob. He'd just shamble around and eat bugs and work stuff out. You know.
That's the way you think of it.
I think you'd be fine. I think there's a few people who adopt you as leader of the tribe. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Okay. Okay. We've got one last clip. Then you guys can ask David and Guy and Rob some questions. This is another clip with Ray. and with Eric. And this is about faith and God. Let's take a quick look. Okay, we only have a few short minutes for questions, so if you have any questions, there's a hand right immediately in the front row. We'll get a roving microphone to you. I'm going to try and be as fair as I possibly can.
Hi guys, I'm from the Philippines. Yeah.
If you just sit down, that'd be great, please. Thank you.
First of all, congratulations for the amazing film and the Rover promotional tour where we witnessed the camaraderie between the three of you, and we witnessed how the two of you really admire the directorial capabilities of David. So in relation to this, my question is, who are your dream directors and actors that you wish to work with? So for Rob and Guy, actors and directors, and then for David, actors that you wish to direct. And lastly, I have a quick message for Rob. I know you mentioned in your interviews that you don't think your Twilight fans will follow you in the next phase of your career. So we just want to know that we're more than just Twilight fans. We are your fans, so we will support you. That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. David, let's start with you. Dream actors to work with.
Oh God, it's so weird. I remember when my agents in America once asking me when they were trying to set me up on meetings with people, they'd say, "So what actors do you want to work with?" And I remember saying, "I don't know. I like all of them. I think there is a place for." Their actors are, especially famous actors, movie stars. They are movie stars for a reason. There's something about them that's compelling. And then the challenge for a director in casting is just finding the right and interesting ways of using them. So I don't know. I just love actors. And yeah, how's that? I squirmed out.
All actors. That's it.
I feel the same way about all directors. It's a hard question to answer because I mean, there are the greats like Martin Scorsese and people like that. I mean, but I don't feel like I sit here going, "Oh, I can't wait to work with Martin Scorsese," because it just may never happen. So,
you want to work with Martin Scorsese?
Clearly, if he's in the store now buying an iPhone, why isn't he offering me a job?
I'll use this as an opportunity to try and get a job. I want to work with Jacques Audiard because I think he's phenomenal. Was that? Oh, do you say other actors? I fucking hate actors.
So a one-man film with Jacques Audiard. That's basically what you want to do.
Yeah,
on your own,
sure,
just
yeah.
on your own. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. There's right at the very back here. Thank you.
I'd like to ask what advice you'd give aspiring actors, and whether I may have a photo at the end of this interview with you all.
Oh, photographs I think are going to be tricky because you're going to trapdoor will open up immediately after this and we'll all disappear. But advice for aspiring actors. Rob, let's start with you.
I don't know. I think I need some.
Learn your lines, I think, is an important bit of advice.
Work with good directors. I think that's basically it. Find what you're doing interesting.
Be true to yourself. And David as well. I mean, we often get a lot of advice for aspiring filmmakers and directors and writers.
For directors, and I think that, well, depends on what stage. I mean, the first thing I say to anyone who wants to make films is you should read books, and not books about filmmaking, just read books. Kind of amazes me how few people read these days, If you want to make dense, rich things, you need to be literate, I think. Okay. I'll leave it there.
There's a lady right over here on the very, very left, and then I'll try and go someone over to the right. Maybe. We'll see.
Hi, my question is for Rob. Here. Hey. Portraying Ray, you did a big transformation when it comes to your looks, your accent, and also your body language. And tics. Was it something that got stuck in between takes that you couldn't get rid of? Like you kept doing this or something? Was it something that stuck?
I kind of, for some, little things. It's a really fun part to play. I mean, it's just kind of, we bring some of the little quirks on. That's what I was thinking of, not twerks, quirks.
Tics and quirks.
Yeah. I mean, it's really fun, like, doing all that stuff. I was talking to someone yesterday with the most terrible argument ever, but I always think that if you can touch your face in a scene, then it's always way easier to do the part. Actually, no, we already talked about this, and it doesn't make any sense.
I think it's ridiculous.
I just realised I should not have brought it up. That's nonsense.
Sorry. So if you touch your face during the scene,
Well, if you
touch
don't
your
really
own
know
face.
what to do,
Okay.
you just go like that.
Because
Oh,
acting
okay.
really is just about knowing what to do with your hands.
It is.
Pretty much. It's about knowing what to do with your hands.
Guy, what do you do with your hands? Do you very much keep them down here, or are you away?
Oh, no, they're
What are you?
all over the place.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Willy nilly. Yeah. Hands akimbo.
Willy-nilly hands again.
You are.
My word.
There you go. Yes.
You penetrate with your hands. We've learned everything today. We're going to go right to the right, and then one last one in the middle because I said yes to this lady. There's a lady with a denim jacket right at the very back. Can you see her? Wave, so we can get the microphone. There we go.
Hello. My question is for Rob, but Guy, you could probably answer this as well. You said yesterday in the Q&A that the reason you liked the script was because it was quote-unquote ridiculous. I'm assuming that was a positive thing. But was it, after watching the movie, there's a lot of silences in the film. Was it the silences that you liked more than the actual dialogue, or is it an even keel? Because the same could be said maybe for Cosmopolis as well. There's quite a few sort of heavy silences in that, so...
Really? Because Cosmopolis is like the talkiest film ever.
No, but the moments that there are quite
She had
profound.
the sound down.
No, I mean, well, you don't really know about the silence. I mean, it's the silences until you're doing stuff. But no, I love the dialogue in this so much. I thought it was so kind of striking. David's got a really specific way of writing dialogue as well. You can kind of see it. There's a similar way in Animal Kingdom as well. You've got like a really specific way of writing. It's like slightly heightened. It's funny. I don't really know how to explain it, but there's something you want to perform it. I think.
And Guy, can you talk about the dialogue as well? Because initially Eric is a man of, no words, and then a few words, and then he gets a little bit more verbose as it goes on. I almost had this vision of you doing that classic Lee Marvin, Steve McQueen thing of rubbing lines out of your script. Was it like that, or was it delivered that way?
No, it was sort of delivered that way from memory. I mean, it was very spare, and I love that, to be honest. And then suddenly we get to the middle of the film or wherever it is where I have this giant speech and sort of let it all out. So, everything I've been bottling up sort of comes out in this sort of one moment with Tony Hayes. But I love David's dialogue, and so when it's there, I felt it was great. But I was really taken by what could be said without actually speaking as well. Yeah.
And David, I presume the screenplay was written in that way, with that intent of keeping a Guy's character quite quiet initially?
No, after making the really dense kind of interwoven sprawling thing of Animal Kingdom, I really loved the idea of doing something that was very lean and elemental and had, and especially for Guy, writing a character that was like a mysterious, almost unknowable man who roamed through the landscape like a ghost, like a man who barely even existed anymore, yeah, it's fun to write that stuff. It's fun to strip someone down to their most sort of basic venal elements, and then get Guy Pearce to do it.
Okay, we got time for this last question. This lady here in the second row.
Hi, I saw the film yesterday and the music makes it really intense, and I literally held my breath for the majority of the film, and all the music built it up. Apart from the pre-Go Rock scene, that was, I think, the only time I actually breathed. So if we was watching the film as Guy and Rob, which song would you sing that the audience would not expect? Because I didn't expect that song to come up. So which song like is unexpected that the audience wouldn't expect you to start singing in a situation like that?
Oh, I think if I sang any song in the movie, it would be weird.
I want to see that version.
Yeah,
of the
that's
movie.
right. Yeah.
So that's a reference to the.
I would quite like it just if the preceding scene, after the Pretty Girl Rock scene, after I've gone to bed, in your kind of solemn way, just start singing it like forlornly
The same
afterwards.
song, the same tune.
Yeah.
Don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
That's what's caused the emotional. That's the emotional climax of the movie.
Yeah.
Just reminiscing over Kerry Olsen.
And we may see that in the twerking cut of the Rover, which will be released early next year. On that bombshell is a good note on which to end. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for your questions. Thanks most of all, David Michôd, Guy Pearce, and Robert Pattinson. Thank you. Ray, in this, who is Ray?
Ray is one of a gang of kind of quite lame criminals, sort of a misfit band of criminals out in the middle of nowhere in Australia, and me and Ray and his brother are part of this little gang. And I've sort of been left for dead, and my brother's stolen Eric's car, and Eric sort of kidnaps me to find the car again.
Okay. So you're playing American in this one. I believe you had to audition with the accent in place already. Is that true?
Yeah, whatever accent I was doing, I'm not entirely sure what it was. But that's what I was just thinking yesterday when we were rehearsing. I didn't do it. I refused to do my accent.
You find a guy who's the sort of a ghost of himself in a way, you know, and really become sort of reverted back to being a sort of an animal rather than a person almost, you know. So it's a tough, complex kind of guy. Yeah.
At a base level, it's essentially about a man who wants to retrieve his car, his stolen car.
Look, to be honest, on an even more base level, it's much more interesting than that. You know, it's and we can't really give away what it is that he's, you know, but the car is connected because of what's in it. You know, so you know, it's about a man who really has one last. One last thing to do, really, probably before ending his own life, really, and honouring that, you know.
Okay, and Robert, you play. Please welcome the writer director of the Rover, David Michôd, and the stars of the Rover, Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson. Guys. David, let's start with you, because I believe this movie began for you back in 2007, before Animal Kingdom even came about. Can you talk about how this came about for you?
I was in LA with Joel Edgerton, who a good friend of mine who I've worked with a number of times, and we were just throwing around ideas. I used to describe it as a kind of a dark and dirty and violent near future Western, and then I stopped calling it that. I don't know why. But
Yeah, that's good. It
That's
works.
kind of what it is.
It works. And Guy, let's bring you in this one. Who do you play in the Rover? Can you talk about your character? Exactly who is he?
Oh well, that's a tough question.
It is a tough question. I like to start with the tough ones first. And then build them up.
It was a tough journey for me to find who he was, actually, to be honest. And David and I had a lot of discussions in the beginning. And obviously, when you see the film, you realise that, you know, there's a lot of this man that is sort of stripped away. You know, he's lost and sort of given up on his morality, I guess, and his sense of humanity, etc. So, you know, by the time the film started...
Yes, for a movie that at the time we thought his brother Nash might direct. I started writing it and just started writing a movie for me. And I went and made Animal Kingdom, and everything went nuts. And in the mayhem after Animal Kingdom, I had a look at all different things I could possibly do, but I just always knew somehow that I wanted the Rover to be the one.
So you had lots of different scripts at different stages, or was this one that was ready to go and you thought?
No, this one
"Can't get
wasn't
this out of
ready
my
to
head"?
go. I had only
Okay.
done one draft of it.
Oh, really?
Once I'd made that decision, then I jumped in and did another couple of drafts, and and yeah, made it the thing that it is now.
So how would you describe the Rover? I mean, we've just seen the trailer, but for people who haven't seen the trailer, how would you describe the film? Is it something that can be described in a pithy couple of sentences?